Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, and welcome to this holiday horror movie review video as part of my December 2022 series. So today we're going to take a look at a holiday horror movie, first time watch for me, of course. Um, that is from 2008, the British horror film, The Children. So this film kind of threw me off because I was going to include it with my Christmas horror movies for this series, and then I read on Wikipedia that it was set on New Year's, more of a New Year's movie. But then when you actually read and watch the movie, when you read like the back of it here, it talks about this family going to visit other family for the Christmas holiday. So it's like, is it a Christmas film or is it a New Year's film? Anyway, I'm just going to call it a holiday season horror film basically because it doesn't really say for sure whether it's. I think they go there for Christmas and New Year's basically, so it fits into both holidays. But either way, I'm going to go ahead and review this as my post Christmas but overall holiday horror movie review. So just wanted to get that out of the way. So The Children from 2008. This is a movie I heard from a few people that I really need to check out. And I hesitated a little bit. I got this about a couple of months ago because I'm not the biggest fan of kids and horror movies like Evil Kids or Killer Kid, that whole subgenre trope in horror movies. There's some good ones. I recently watched The Orphan as part of my 31 horror movies of October, and I love that movie. I love the Killer Kid in that movie, both the actress and the character. So there are good ones, but for the most part, like Evil Kids or Killer Kids don't really work for me more times than not. But I wanted to give this movie a shot, especially for the holiday horror movie scene. So, The Children is a 2008 British horror thriller film set around the New Year holiday. There you go. Directed by Tom Shankland, based on the story by Paul Andrew Williams. The story centers around an evil virus that turns all children into bloodthirsty monsters during a Christmas vacation. You notice how they have New Year holiday and Christmas vacation. The film premiered on December 5th, 2008, and received positive reviews from critics. So basically, the movie opens. Elaine and Jonah are traveling with their two children, Miranda and Polly, along with Casey, Elaine's teenage daughter from a previous relationship, to spend the Christmas holidays and New Year with Elaine's older sister, Chloe. Well, I guess that says it right there, to spend the Christmas holiday and New Year. So it is for both. Anyway, moving on. Chloe, her husband Robbie, and their two children, Nikki and Leah, welcomed their visitors. Outside the house, Polly vomits near the bushes, which his mother believes is due to being car sick. As the night progresses, Nikki and Leah also begin to show symptoms of an illness. Leah coughs up some black bile, where strange forms of bacteria is seen proliferating exponentially. As everyone goes to bed, the family cat Jinxie goes missing. Casey, back at the woods, calls her friends to make plans to escape and attend the party, but she's startled by Jinxie's snarling. However, she's unable to find the cat. By the next day, all the children have become seemingly pale and infected. The next day, the children and men are playing in the snow, and one of the children has Jinxie's collar in the play tent. Whilst Jonah and Robbie are having a discussion, Polly shoves a sled downhill that hits Chloe's ankle, causing her to drop tea all over Jonah, scalding him. So that's the setup and the premise, the beginning of this movie. As far as the cast goes, we have Eva Birthstile, Eva Birth, Berthastol as Elaine, Stephen Campbell Moore as Jonah, Hannah Toynton as Casey, Eva Sayer as Miranda, William Howes as Polly, Rachel Shelley as Chloe, and Jeremy Sheffield as Robbie. So yeah, that's the setup, the premise, and the cast for the 2008 British horror thriller film The Children. Um, I have to say I really like this movie, and this is one of the better like Evil Kid, Killer Kid kind of movies. I have to say. Um, so let's just get into my review, starting with the things I really liked about the movie or the pros for The Children. Um, it's a really engaging story and premise, quite frankly. One that doesn't explain everything that's going on. Like you really don't know where this virus comes from or why it's just affecting the kids. There's a lot that's unexplained in this movie, but that actually works to its benefit too. I'll get into that a little bit later, but it really those type of things really make for a more creepy and interesting watch. The fact that they don't explain the origins of this virus or why it's affecting these particular kids or people younger ages. So yeah, I really liked the. I was really engaged by the whole story and premise of the movie right from the jump. The performances are really solid across the board, especially by the young cast or the quote unquote the evil kids in this movie, and that's definitely not always the case in these type of movies. But the looks that these kids had, and their ability to act like normal kids early on in the movie, where they're complaining about not feeling well, crying, complaining, that kind of thing, being tired, and then becoming dangerous little monsters was pretty seamless. And I have to give, I mean, a lot of the credit I'm sure goes to the director and how they directed these kids, but the kids themselves, mostly through their looks and their ability to emote, I thought they were really phenomenal at that. And they don't have a lot of dialogue, the kids. It's more the look and maybe the sound of crying and screaming, things like that. But I thought they were believable, and that's definitely not the case when it comes to young actors or actresses like this for kids. So that's definitely a positive. Also, the two main leads, Eva Burstyle and Hannah Toynton. I thought they were really good as sort of the leads of this movie. Good mother daughter chemistry between them. You can tell it's a strained relationship. It just felt very real. It didn't feel like they were putting on for the cameras. It felt like they really were mother and daughter. So yeah, the kids, and then those two I thought were really the standouts as far as performances go in the children. I really thought this was a well directed movie with the camera angles and shots, the cuts and the edits between scenes, the cinematography. All those things really made for an engaging watch, and it has a lot of visual beauty to it. I mean, there's obviously a lot that takes place outside and takes place in the snow. There's snow cover in the woods around this house, this old country style house out in the wilderness. Um, so you have this wonderful canvas of snow on the ground, and of course, you know that canvas is going to be painted on by red blood, and it is, and so things like that were very visually pleasing. So yeah, I just thought the director, who I'm not very familiar with, Tom Shankland, I don't know what other movies he directed. I'll have to look that up and see. But I liked his directing in this movie, and I thought he did a really good job. There's also another scene where there's an overhead shot as one of our characters is walking out of the house, and you get to see this sort of canvas of white snow and this blood that ended up getting sprayed on it in a scene or two earlier. It's just very, very cool, very well directed, and very well shown. So yeah, things like that I really enjoyed, and I have to give the director a lot of credit. I really like the setting of this movie taking place in this country house. It's kind of isolated. It's surrounded by these woods. That's always a great setting for a horror movie. It's also kind of secluded and isolated in the sense that they can't really get help there as quickly as they might like, as if they were on the outskirts of a big city. Um, it also makes for a really creepy atmosphere because of the setting. Kind of that helpless feeling that they have that really adds to the horror element of the movie. So that was definitely a positive for me. Then, of course, you got to get into the kills of this movie, which that's probably the thing that surprised me the most. When I did my review for The Orphan a few months ago, I talked about how it's rare that they actually have an evil kid or killer kid horror movie that has actually on screen violence. That movie did to a certain extent. This movie does as well. And once it starts, once the kids go full on evil, it doesn't let up. And there's lots of scenes of graphic violence having to do with on screen kills. And so I give them credit for that because typically, especially in Hollywood, I feel like filmmakers shy away from having showing kids being violent against other people, killing other people, or even in this movie, even having the kids be killed themselves and showing it to a certain extent on screen. So they definitely don't hold back with this movie as far as the violence and the brutality with kids. And there's also a good amount of blood and gore in this movie that they really don't hold back on much, including showing the children being killed. One of them falls through like a sharp shard of glass that's sticking up. Another one is stabbed, I believe, with a pole. Um, but yeah, there's the gore and the blood is legitimate and it's practical and it looks very real and believable. So everything related to the kills is really strong in this movie. Also, getting onto that point, good practical gore and makeup effects that look real and believable. That was another thing that I have to give the director a lot of props for. They didn't half-ass anything when it came to the kills, the gore, the violence. It's all there in this movie. So and then I also thought there was a really solid score and musical cues, very eerie and suspenseful. Sort of that outdoor, wintry kind of score that really works well for this sort of movie. It's another thing that really works well to help keep the viewer engaged in this story and in this movie. And then my final pro for this movie, I really like the ending. It's very creepy and effective and allows the well, first of all, the creepy part is all these kids. Once our two main leads or two characters sort of have resolution, and it appears that they're going to be able to escape. All of a sudden, coming out of the woods are just like 15, 20, 30 kids that all have this look to them that you can tell that they got this virus going on, and they're just stand there and they stare, and it's just very effective, very creepy. And then the scene after that, where the two of them are driving away, you can start to see the character of Casey, played by Hannah Toyton. She starts having that same look as the kids have. So now, as the audience member, we're starting to question, oh, does she have the virus? Because she also has a scene right before that where she pukes. Now, we don't know for sure if she's puking because she's got the virus or the fact that basically another main character just saved her life by having to take out one of the children in a pretty violent and bloody way. So we don't know if it's that. The movie doesn't really explain it, which is one of the best parts about the movie and the ending of the movie. I thought it was very effective. And like I said, I love movies that allow the viewer to sort of figure it out for themselves, whatever they think it is, and not give it away, not spell it out or have a big exposition dump kind of thing. And this movie doesn't do that. And I think that's one of the things I appreciate most about this movie. So yeah, the ending really worked well for me. And I didn't mention it, but this movie does a great job of building up tension through all the things that I mentioned in my pros, from the cinematography to the score to the performances and the overall story, and as well as the kills. So want to get that out there. So those are my pros. As you can probably tell, I really like the movie. Getting into some cons, the first one's going to be because again, this is a series having to do with Christmas slash holiday New Year horror movies. This movie doesn't really have strong holiday vibes. I mean, when the family first arrives at this house to visit, there are some Christmas lights outside. I think there's some Christmas decor inside. But the biggest sort of atmospheric holiday horror aspect, if you want to say, is the snow outside and the fact that it's obviously cold out. There's sledding that goes on. Everybody's dressed up in stocking caps and gloves and snowmobile suits and jackets and everything. So you could almost argue it's much a winter horror movie as it is any kind of holiday horror movie. So definitely not New Year's. There's nothing really New Year's about it. A little bit more Christmas, but like I said, even with that, it doesn't have the strongest Christmas or holiday horror atmosphere, in my opinion. So that's kind of a nitpick. But again, with this series, I have to bring it up because I'm reviewing this with a Christmas slash New Year's slash holiday horror series. So my bigger con with the movie, and this is probably one you've heard me mention in other movies as a con. And I get that it's a common plot point, a common plot point trope more than anything used in these type of movies is basically the idea that we have one character that kind of understands and sees what's going on, and they're willing to survive at all costs. And then, of course, everybody else, mainly the adult characters in this movie, basically thinks that this one character that knows what's going on is crazy, calls him crazy, reprimands him, even pushes him around and locks him up because of the quote unquote what's the word I'm searching for, threat that they pose as opposed to what the actual real threat is, which of course in this movie is the kids. Yeah, like I said, they're called crazy. They're reprimanded in some way by adult characters. It doesn't work as well in this movie because, and again, I've mentioned this in other movies, but once you actually see it for yourself, once you see the look in these kids' face, and what they actually do. Forget about the look. For the fact that they're pushing sleds into people, they're literally trying to hurt people on purpose and actually threatening people in front of them. And these adults are still playing the whole nope, there's nothing wrong with them. They're just kids. It's like, come on, really? I mean, I get that you're not going to just take out a kid right off the bat when they do something bad. But again, in this movie, they're literally causing people to bleed out. They're causing people to die. They're threatening people with weapons. And you're still going to sit there and say, no, please don't attack the little kid, even though it's not your child anymore, dude. So that's just something that really annoys me. I don't know. Again, I understand they have to do it to a certain extent. Otherwise, you're not going to have a 90-minute movie or whatever the runtime is of this movie. But I just hate that when you've got grown ass people that just refuse to accept reality, even though it's right in front of them. They basically turn a blind eye. Um, they refuse to take meaningful action, and instead their action ends up causing more deaths and more havoc. So yeah, that's a big con I have in this movie as well as others. And then my other one is I didn't feel like all the characters were as fleshed out as they could have been. Like in the first 20-25 minutes of the movie when these families are coming together before the horror really starts to happen. There's some characters, mainly like the side characters like Miranda and Polly. We don't really get a lot on them. The kids are fine. You get enough on them as much as you need to. But other than Elaine and Casey, even Joan, I didn't feel like was that flushed out. So would have liked a little bit more flushing out with those characters, so we would have cared a little bit more when they come to meet their demise. But those are my cons. Overall, guys, this is a really great movie. I'm glad I have it in my collection. It's a really fun watch, very creepy. This is a creepy killer kids movie that works well, mostly because of the directing and the choices that the filmmakers took with this movie, as well as the atmosphere, and the children themselves work really well in this movie as well. So I'm going to give The Children from 2008 an 8.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. It's not a perfect movie, but as far as Killer Kids movie goes, it was very believable and very good, and I was on the edge of my seat watching it, not quite sure how it was going to turn out. So 8.5 out of 10 for The Children from 2008. Go ahead and comment down below if you guys have seen The Children, the British horror thriller film from 2008, what your thoughts are about it. Please like this video and hit the little notification bell down below so you don't miss my last review for this series coming up in a couple days. And be sure to subscribe to my channel as well so you don't miss any of my great horror content, including what I have coming up the first 4 or 5 months, my series for the 2023 here, which I'll be dropping a video on that probably on New Year's Day, January 1st. Just kind of giving you the rundown and the layout. So hope you enjoyed this review. Hope everybody's having a good holiday season, but stay scared. Bye.